You're too weak for business. The glass doors to my office reflected two ghosts from my past, my brothers, Marcus and Ryan, standing in my reception area like lost children. Their $1,000 suits couldn't hide the desperation in their shoulders, the defeat in their eyes. I'm Rebecca Becca Lawson, 34 years old, and 5 years ago, these same men threw me out of our family's construction company like I was yesterday's garbage. Ms. Lawson will see you now, my assistant Caroline announced, her voice professionally neutral despite knowing exactly who these men were. They walked into my office, 40 floors up in downtown Chicago, overlooking the city they once told me I'd never succeed in. Marcus, the eldest at 39, still carried himself like he owned the world, but his hands shook slightly. Ryan, 37, couldn't even meet my eyes. Becca, Marcus started, then caught himself. Rebecca, thank you for seeing us. I didn't offer them seats. Just leaned back in my chair, studying them over the contracts I'd been reviewing. You have 5 minutes. We need to talk about Lawson Construction, Ryan said, his voice cracking slightly. You mean your company? I said, letting the words hang in the air. The one you changed the locks on? The one where you held a staff meeting to announce I was too soft, too emotional, too female for the construction business. Marcus's jaw tightened. We were wrong. Wrong. I stood up, walked to the window. That's one word for it. Here's what I remember. Dad died, left us equal shares. You two voted me out within a month. Said construction was a man's world. Said my MBA and decade of experience meant nothing because I wanted to implement safety protocols that would slow down productivity. Becca, please. Rebecca, I corrected. Becca was your little sister. Rebecca is the CEO of Titan Industries. Their faces paled at the mention of my company. Titan Industries, Fortune 500, $3 billion in revenue last year, and currently the largest commercial construction firm in the Midwest. We know what you've built, Marcus said quietly. It's impressive. Impressive. I laughed, but there was no warmth in it. You know what's impressive? Building this from nothing. No family money, no connections, no safety net. Just a woman who was apparently too weak for business. Ryan finally looked up. We need your help. No, I said simply. You need my money. There's a difference. Marcus pulled out a folder, his hands trembling. Lawson Construction is failing. We've got 3 lawsuits, OSHA violations, and... He paused, swallowing hard. We're under federal investigation. I know, I said, returning to my desk. The SEC contacted me last week. Something about falsifying safety reports to win government contracts? The same safety protocols I wanted to implement. The silence was deafening. We'll sell you our shares, Ryan burst out. 60% of the company. You'd have majority control. You could fix everything. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a thick document. I don't want 60%. For a moment, hope flickered in their eyes. I'm taking all of it, I said, sliding the acquisition papers across the desk. Titan Industries is absorbing Lawson Construction. Not a merger. A complete acquisition. You'll receive exactly what the company is worth after liabilities, which, given the investigations and lawsuits, is essentially nothing. That's robbery. Marcus slammed his fist on my desk. Dad built that company. Dad built a good company, I agreed. You two destroyed it with your greed and corner-cutting. Every violation, every lawsuit, stems from decisions you made after kicking me out. The unsafe scaffolding that led to 3 workers being paralyzed? That was your call to save money. The falsified inspection reports? Your signature, Marcus. Ryan sank into a chair without permission. You've been watching us fail. I've been building something better, I corrected. Every worker you laid off to cut costs? I hired them. Every safety measure you ignored? I implemented. Every contract you lost because of your reputation? I won it. This is revenge, Marcus said, his voice bitter. This is business, I replied. Isn't that what you told me? That business isn't personal? That there's no room for feelings? Caroline knocked and entered. Ms. Lawson, your 3 o'clock is here. Behind her, 2 people in dark suits entered. SEC badges visible. Gentlemen, Agent Sarah Coleman said, looking at my brothers. We need to discuss the fraudulent documents submitted for the Harbor Point project. Marcus went white. You called them? I didn't have to, I said. When Titan Industries started due diligence for the acquisition, we're legally required to report any irregularities we find. We found about $47 million worth. Agent Coleman stepped forward. Marcus Lawson, Ryan Lawson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy, and violating federal safety regulations. As they cuffed my brothers, Ryan looked at me with tears in his eyes. We're family, Becca. We were, I said quietly, until you decided I wasn't good enough to be part of it. Marcus, even in handcuffs, tried one last manipulation. Dad would be ashamed of you. I pulled out my phone, swiped to a saved voicemail. Dad's voice filled the room, weak from cancer but clear. Becca, sweetheart, I'm leaving the company to all three of you because I trust you to look after each other. But if I'm honest, you're the only one I trust to look after the workers. Your brothers, they see dollars. You see people. Don't let them change you. The message ended. Marcus couldn't look at me. I played that every night for 6 months after you threw me out, I said. Then I decided to build something he'd be proud of. After they were gone, Caroline brought me tea. She always knew when I needed it. That must have been difficult, she said gently. Caroline had been my first hire when I started Titan, back when it was just me, her, and a borrowed desk in a co-working space. She'd seen me cry over rejections, celebrate tiny victories, work 20-hour days to prove everyone wrong. You know what the irony is? I said, looking at the acquisition papers. I would have saved them. If they'd come to me a year ago, admitted they were wrong, asked for help, not money, actual help, I would have done it. What changed? They let those workers get paralyzed, I said simply. The moment they chose profits over people's lives, they became everything I started Titan to fight against. My phone buzzed. A text from my CFO. Lawson Construction assets secured. All 847 employees have been offered positions with full benefits. Safety upgrades begin Monday. 847 people who wouldn't lose their jobs because of my brother's crimes. 847 families who'd keep their health insurance, their stability, their dignity. The press will have a field day, Caroline noted. Sister takes down brothers, builds empire on their ruins. Let them, I said. But make sure they include this. Titan Industries has had 0 workplace fatalities in 5 years of operation. Our workers' compensation claims are 90% lower than industry standard. And we've never missed a single payroll, even when it meant I didn't take a salary for the first 2 years. She smiled. The soft approach? Turns out caring about people is good business, I said. Who knew? Later that evening, I stood in Dad's old office at Lawson Construction. They'd kept it exactly as he left it, his hard hat on the desk, his first dollar earned framed on the wall, pictures of all 3 of us as kids. I found his old project journal, open to his last entry. The measure of a company isn't its profits, but how it treats the person at the bottom. Becca understands this. I hope the boys learn it before it's too late. They hadn't. My phone rang. An unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately, Mom. Rebecca, she said, her voice tired. I heard about your brothers. Mom. I hadn't spoken to her since she'd sided with them 5 years ago, said I should accept their decision gracefully. I was wrong, she said simply. I thought keeping the peace was more important than standing up for what's right. I failed you. You chose them, I said, surprising myself with how much it still hurt. I chose the easy path, she corrected. You chose the right one. Your father would be so proud. I'm proud, even though I have no right to be. They're facing 20 years, Mom. They're facing consequences, she said firmly. Something I should have taught them better when they were young. You learned it despite me, not because of me. We talked for an hour. Not reconciliation exactly, but a beginning. She told me Marcus's wife had left him months ago, that Ryan's drinking had gotten worse, that they'd been so convinced of their own superiority, they couldn't see the rot spreading through the company. Will you visit them? She asked finally. In prison? Maybe, I said. When they're ready to actually hear what I have to say. And what's that? That being strong in business isn't about being hard. It's about being strong enough to stay soft. To care when caring costs you. To choose people over profits, even when everyone says you're too weak to succeed. After we hung up, I walked through the construction yard. Tomorrow, Titan's safety team would begin their overhaul. New equipment, new protocols, new culture. Everything my brothers had said would bankrupt the company. My foreman, Eddie, one of Dad's original crew who'd followed me to Titan, found me there. Boss, he said, the crew wanted me to tell you something. Yeah, every man and woman here knows what your brothers did to you. How they laughed when you left, said you'd never make it. And every one of us has been waiting for this day. The day they got arrested? The day you proved them wrong, he said. But more than that, The day you prove that doing right by people is what makes a real leader. Your dad always said you were the strongest of his kids because you could take a hit and not become bitter. I thought about that as I drove home to my apartment. Not a mansion, just a nice 2-bedroom because I'd rather pay my employees well than live lavishly. 5 years ago, my brothers had stood in front of the entire company and declared me too weak for business. Too emotional. Too soft. They'd literally changed the locks while I was at Dad's funeral home, making final arrangements they couldn't be bothered with. Today, they'd stood in my office in handcuffs, their empire crumbling, begging the sister they'd discarded to save them. But here's the thing about being too soft. It wasn't weakness. It was strength of a different kind. The strength to build instead of tear down. To lift others instead of stepping on them. To create something that mattered more than money. Titan Industries would absorb loss in construction, save those jobs, honor those contracts. But it would do it the right way. The way Dad had always intended. The way my brothers never understood. As I pulled into my parking spot, my phone lit up with messages. Former employees thanking me. Competitors congratulating me. Business journals wanting interviews about the acquisition. But the one that mattered most was from Eddie's daughter, who worked in our accounting department. Ms. L, my dad just told me the whole story. Thank you for showing us that the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so much better that their failure becomes irrelevant. You didn't just prove them wrong. You proved there's a better way. Tomorrow, the headlines would scream about the family drama, the arrest, the takeover. But tonight, I sat in my father's old chair, now in my office, and felt something better than vindication. Peace. Because being too soft had made me strong enough to build an empire on kindness, successful enough to save what my brothers destroyed, and wise enough to know that the best response to being underestimated isn't just success. It's succeeding while staying exactly who you are. The weak one. The soft one. The emotional one. The one who turned those supposed weaknesses into a Fortune 500 company built on the radical idea that treating people well is good business. Turns out, that's the strongest position of all.